So as we look at this today, as we've done already a little bit of work so far this school year, trying to prepare you for the next couple months coming up. They will only get worse after this. All right, so excuse me. On number one, what does again mean to be a like term? What are we looking for in order to be, say, a like term? Victoria? Numbers or not so much the numbers, but the variables, right? Yeah, the variables need to be the same. I don't care about the numbers in front of that. It's the variables that need to be the same. And if it doesn't have a variable, then we can combine those numbers. So as we've done a little bit before, and as we've done this before in prior years, let's just start off with that quick one here, okay? This is where we want to identify the like terms. My guess is some of your teachers, and this is how the way I go, maybe just do a single underline, double underline, triple underline to identify which terms are like, which ones are not. So I've got negative 10x and 1x because they're both x's, right? Okay, this is where your calculators are coming into play. In your head, you should be able to tell me what negative 10 plus 1 is. If you already got that number, and it's the incorrect number, that is where you use that calculator to check that arithmetic. What is negative 10 plus 1? It should be an automatic. Negative 9. Make sure you got that negative there with it. That combines, yep, to give me negative 9x. Okay, we keep going. We got other terms up there to combine together. The 5 and the 7. I double underline those because that 5 and 7 does not have a variable there with it. Those are like terms. One more time, that arithmetic. 5 plus 7 is? Now that's my answer. Stop. Okay, I can't do anything else with that. Those are not like terms. The 12 does not have an x. Don't force it together. The dumb mistakes I see is some of you go in and say, oh, the answer is 3x. Because negative 9 and 12 give you 3. Are those again like terms? No. So you cannot do that. Okay? But we can do this. You can't combine those. Stop right there. Okay? Let's look at the next one here, letter B. Let's walk our way through here today. These are not new. These are reviews, but we're going to up the ante here very quickly. On letter B, what do I see up there? I've got a y. Do I have other y's up there? No. Do I have anything combined with that y then? No. So what do? Just bring it on down. Then the other variable I see up there is a x. That's a different term, so I give it 2 underlines. Do I have any other x's up there? So what do? Just drop it on down. And then lastly, what I see is terms without a variable. And those are like terms then. Without the variable are like terms. And what is right here? This is the arithmetic we're talking about. If you cannot do negative 3 minus 7 correctly every single time, you better use that calculator to check yourself. Negative 3 minus 7 is, what is it? Negative 10. It better be an automatic. And if it's not that automatic, use that calculator. Okay? So make sure you know how to type that in correctly as well. I say use it. Make sure you know how actually to then say use it properly. If you're not getting negative 10 on there, raise your hand. I'll come around and help you. Now we then talked about doing a little bit of review on the next part. When we get into our notes starting tomorrow, we're going to do a lot of work with parentheses. As we said before, how do we get rid of parentheses? What's that property we talked about? Distributive property. So distributive property says just do multiplication. Okay? We're going to take that number that's hiding out in front, and I show that multiplication right there with my little kind of arcs. That tells me what to multiply together. Negative 3 times 5a. So in your head, what is negative 3 times 5a? Negative 15a. Don't forget that a. And then we do another round of multiplication. What does negative 3 times 1 get you? Negative 3, right? Once parentheses are gone, we're back to what we just started off with today. Look at those two terms. Can you combine those two terms or not? No, one's an a and one doesn't have an a, right? So stop, call it a day. What do we have? Negative 15a minus 3 right there. That's all we want from you. That's all you can do. Okay? How about the next one? When I look at this next one, I don't see a number out front. All I see is that negative sign. So what number is hiding there? Brandon, put the phone away. 1. Thank you. So we have ourselves a -1 we're going to distribute. As we distribute that -1, okay, what happens with signs when we multiply? Negative times a negative gives me a positive 7y. -1 times a -6 gives me a positive 6. Watch that multiplication. Again, if you can't do that multiplication, you've got your calculator there, all right? And on that calculator, as I've got there, use it, okay? You know, what did we just say? 1 times 6, use those calculators. Now, as you put those in there, all right, it's a -1 times a, what is it, -6? Getting that exact same thing there of 6, okay? Use those calculators that you have out there. That plus and minus button that you see on some of your screens, that's what we're using, okay? All right, off the next one here. Or not. Right away. Oh, there's 2 out there. Let's see how I can get rid of this. Oh, there's the X. All right, let's scroll it down. Let's look at letter E. Okay, on letter E here. Sorry, my bad. On letter E, I must have deleted all that crap. Let's go back 1. Oh, everything got jacked up. That's a new one. Hold on, guys. My board freaked out a bit. I don't know why. Why it got laid underneath that. I'll have to run with it. Alright, what we just say, letter E. So as we look at letter E now, alright, here's where the mistakes again will happen. What are we going to do first on letter E? I've got 2 things going on there. What's my first thing to happen we should be doing? Yeah, I've got this 10p up front, and I also got this -7 there, but it's attached by those parentheses. So as I heard you say, we better do that distribution first. Cool, we're doing distribution. What number do I actually distribute? Yeah, what I have students want to do is sometimes use that 10p right there and do something silly like that. Don't do that, okay? You told me to distribute the 7. As I distribute the 7 here, okay, this is again where those calculators or your mental math comes into play. What is -7 times 1? And what is -7 times a -5p? Again, if you are sitting there and you're running that in your head and you're not getting those numbers, that is a clue for you. Use that calculator. Now that 10p that we haven't talked about yet, where's that at? It's just out front still, right? If you haven't done anything with it, just drop it on down. And then we're back to where we're at. Okay, we're back to combining like terms. Your first goal, if you see parentheses, distribute, and then let's go back, combine like terms. What do we got here? We got those p's, right? This is again your arithmetic in play. 10p plus 35p. Follow those signs. You always add it together. Follow those signs. 10 plus 35 gives me 45p. That -7. Anything to combine with that -7? So drop it on down. Do not try to force those together. Call it a day. Okay? Now this is the next big mistake I see with these distributed property. What somebody want to do first on the next one? 3 minus 5, or what's the other option possibly? Distribute. Those are the 2 things I should expect. But the one I expect you guys to do the most, unfortunately it's incorrect. I have people say, yeah, 3 minus 5 is -2. And then we go ahead and distribute a -2. And then you get that marked wrong, and well, that's not correct. You've got parentheses. Remember back in when you started learning about order of operations? What do we do first in that hierarchy? Parentheses. Okay, so what we want to do here first is distribute the -5. That 3 drops down. I don't deal with that at the moment. But the mistake is, I know somebody's going to do it. 3 minus 5. Can't do that there. That parentheses is preventing that. All right, let's do that. -5 times 4n. And negative 5 times negative 1. Positive 5, right? After that, that's it. Combine like terms now. We're back to what we started off with. Like terms, anything on the ends to do with? No, I've just got the 1. There's nothing to combine with it, so we drop it on down. But what we do have is the variables without, or sorry, the terms without a variable. Watch your signs. 3 plus 5 gives me 8. Okay? That's it, that's it, that's it. All right? But you got to be great at that, because we're going to be doing that here in just a few, either tomorrow or the next day, all right, on distributing and combining like terms. Letter G. Your calculators can't do that for you, so you got to make sure you do that. Calculators can just do the arithmetic. Okay, on letter G here, we kind of give you that same setup, because that is the common mistake to see. What are we doing first here? Yeah, I want to kind of drill it into your head. That I see that negative 10 plus 5 parentheses take the first thing. The negative 10 just drops on down. Okay? Put the phone away, Terry. Okay, now we distribute that 5. 5 times 1n and 5 times negative 3. Watch that arithmetic. You should be working that at the same time, doing that arithmetic in your head. If you're not telling yourself negative 15, that's where that calculator will come into play. Same thing with adding these now. When we combine like terms. I've got a 5n, but as we've been seeing here, does anything combine with that 5n? No. But what we do have right there. Okay, so these are my dumb mistakes. Negative 10 plus a negative 15. What's that number give you? Negative 25. If you're not getting that negative 25, you're sitting there and you're writing down 5 or negative 5. That's where your head's not going right. You're not doing the arithmetic correctly. The correct answer is, as you said, negative 25. You got a calculator, use it for the arithmetic. And how about that last group? What are we doing first there? You gotta distribute that 11. What's negative 7x gonna do? It's along for the ride at the moment. Yep, just drop it on down. Now let's go and distribute that 11 like you said. Multiply. I keep showing those arrows every single time to know that 11 times 4x and 11 times 5. Laziness is forgetting that x accidentally. Watch it out. All right, now we have like terms. We have x's this time to bring together. This is again where your calculator comes into play if you're not getting that right number. Negative 7 plus 44. If you want to check yourself, check with the calculator. What do we got for negative 7 plus a 44? I'm sorry? 37x. Okay? If you're sitting there and you're not getting that 37 in your head, punch it in. Check with your calculator. Type in a negative 7 plus a 44. And what you should then get is a 37x. 55. Anything to do with 55? Nope. That's where we're at. Because I almost tripped over. Okay? We got to be there. We're going to do a crap ton more of this between now and pretty much the end of your high school career. Okay? But this is what we're going to hit you hard on. Now, we're going to make a slow transition here. These, what we just did up through H, we call these expressions. The difference between an expression and an equation is an equation has an equal sign. So we're going to make our turn now to start talking about some equation work. These lead into the equations, so let's start talking about that. Let's look at number 2 below. You guys have done this already, all right? This is leading us into some equation work, though. You guys just quizzed up on this. When we say do a prediction, you've been doing that. Beginning of the year, when we said do some evaluations with functions, that's what we started off with. What I want you to do here is determine the value of each function given this particular value of x. That's when you just did like the prediction of 2 years or 9 hours or anything that you did. Exact same idea. Nothing changes. You're replacing that x right here as 0. So when we say f of 0, what we mean to do then is, if I could write that Much better. 5 times 0 minus 3. That's what that tells me to do. And you have calculators. If you could do the prediction, which looked a lot better on your test yesterday, which looked fairly good, type that into your calculator and tell me what you get. 5 times 0 minus 3. Don't just sit there and stare at me. Plug it in or run it in your head. These are small enough you should be able to do in your head, but if you're not going to get this answer here, use that calculator to check yourself. Thank you, Emily. You should be getting a -3. If you're plugging it into your calculator and you're not getting a -3, you better be typing in exactly what's in front of us on that paper there. Use those parentheses. And more time, if you're not getting that -3, raise your hand. Ms. Keelan and I will be more than happy to help you out. If you're going to do the mental math, cool. But check yourself always. It's easy to make silly mistakes. Make them all the day, so check yourself. How about 6 now? We're going to do f of 6. So I'm using that same thing, just like we did that predictions a second ago. All right, 5 times 6 now.
27.
All right, type it into your calculator, and you better be getting, 27. 5 times 6 is 30. 30 minus 3 is 27. Let's get great at this. Not good, but great at it. These are your easy ones to pick up on, okay? How about the next group? We got a negative out front. You better watch that negative as you type that in. We're replacing x as a -3. Now, this is where I talk about don't be lazy on us. We replace x as -3. And if I write that down like that, and you type that into your calculator, it ain't going to be right. Okay? You better use those parentheses. When we plug in values, like we did here, I use parentheses. When I plug in that -3, for whatever reason, I've got maybe a quarter of people that don't want to use those parentheses, and it will kill you. Now, type that again into your calculator correctly with those parentheses, and you should be getting the correct answer. So Zayla got 20. Somebody else get 20 there? Yep, because if you don't type in 20, you don't type in those parentheses, you get a 1 out of that. What your calculator thinks you want to do is -4 minus 3. We don't want our calculator to do that. We want our calculator to do multiplication. Parentheses does that. And Azalea said 20. You got 20 there? Congrats. How about the other one then?
-16.
She's saying -16. Does somebody else get -16 there?
Yeah.
If you are not getting -16, again, raise your hand. We'll help you out. And that is correct. That does give you a -16. So when we do these evaluations, we've done them before. Just you start to kind of tweak it here and there just to match the situation we're doing. All right, let's do some tests kind of prep. Let's look at number 3 now. On number 3 here, I give you a multiple choice question here. And I'm saying, given f of x is 4x, so just like we did up above, what does the x have to be? So this is the x right there we're talking about. What does the x have to be in order to get an answer of 16? Okay, so it sounds like we got that there, and it should be kind of obvious. But right here, that's exactly what we did. When x was 6, we plugged it in, worked out, we got a 27. So I'm just asking, hey, if I give you 27, what did that x have to be? It had to be 6 on that one. Now, you all told me just it is 4, right? So what I'm doing here is one of two things. I can say I can brute force this. What do I mean by brute force? If I plug in x as 12, I'm checking to see, does that give me 16? No, what's 4 times 12? 48, right? Yeah, 48. That's not 16, so it can't be 12. So if you're not sure what the answer is, it's multiple choice, we can brute force it. Now these are easy ones. You all told me off the bat the answer was, x is 4. But I'm plugging this in and checking to see if I get 16. That one finally checks out. If you try 20, that's my other common mistake I see people do. What's 4 times 20? Not 16, is it? It's actually 80, so that can't be it either. Brute force it if you need to. Sometimes they're crappy. Brute force is the way to go. But that one, you also see. How about the other one now? I took away your multiple choice. Same question, but now I took away your multiple choice. What do you got, Chloe? What's that? 7? So where are we getting that 7 from? Now this is our transition to the next page with equations. Where y'all came up with that 4 very quickly is essentially this line right here. I've got, okay? You guys are smart enough to know 4 times what gives me 16. You're solving an equation there. So now Chloe said 7, right? Where am I getting a 7 from? X minus 5 has to be 12, right? So let's plug in, you said 7, right? Let's plug that in. What's 7 minus 5, Chloe?
2.
Are we 12? No, so it's 7, right? No. Not quite. That's the mistake I usually expect, so that's why I want to talk about it. So here's what we got going. Let's talk about this one. You see that -5 and you're 12 and your brain just kind of going clicks to 7 as Chloe suggested. But what do we have to do here? We've done this before. We did some review at the beginning of the year, and you did this starting back in 5th grade. We want to solve this equation. And to solve this equation, we want to do what we say is inverses. To get x by itself, what's the inverse of a -5? We want to add a 5 to both sides. So at the beginning of the year, we did a little bit of review here. Now we're going to kick in full gear. Heads up there. Heads up, drawing on your paper. We add 5 to both sides, and what's 12 plus 5? 12 plus 5. You got calculators. It is 17. That's my answer. Because what is 17 minus 5? 17 minus 5 is? So small things are easy to make mistakes on. Let's catch ourselves. Okay? So that transitions us into the next page. Let's flip it. Let's solve equations. Okay? We're going to get ready to ramp it up on equation stuff. So let's look at that on the next page here. Okay? Give it a second. Flip it over. Let's solve them out. I took away your multiple choice answers here. We want to solve these out. When I look at that particular problem, my head sees -2 and 8, and my number probably goes to 6. But is 6 the answer here? It is not. So take your time. Let's do the work. Victor? Going away. I'm aware of that. Going away. You'll live. Okay. So, as I said before, this is helpful for you. Separate your left side to the right side. I draw that line down the equal sign. And how do you get that y by itself? That's your goal. How do I get rid of that -2? The inverse of a minus is a plus. This is again where we show a +2 to both sides to keep this thing balanced. What you do to one side, you gotta do to the other. What happens now is these 2's cancel out. You're left with y. And now we go back to the arithmetic. You all know what 8 plus 2 is. 8 plus 2 gives me 10. Okay? But that's the part we want to start working on. These are what we call as a one step. It took us one step to get there. How about the next one? Number 5. We have x over 2. Okay? Bring it over a little bit. X over 2 equals 12. Now, again, the mistake that I see people do is say answer is 6. If that's true, then I should be able to plug in 6 divided by 2 and get 12. What's 6 divided by 2? 3, not 12, is it? So that can't be the correct answer. So we need to undo things. We need to do some inverses. What is happening to the x? It's being divided by 2. What's the inverse of that? Multiplied. So I want to multiply both sides by 2, and just like we said a few minutes ago on the other side, you better use those dang parentheses. Okay? Tristan?
It's 24.
So when we multiply both sides by 2, 2 divided by 2 cancels out. You get x. And as Tristan then said, on the right hand side, 12 times 2 is? 24. Chloe, what you got?
Can't you just take 2 times 12?
Which is, yep, what we did there off of that. We did 2 times that 12, like you said, like that. Yep, exactly it. Things get a little funky when we get throwing another number, but right now, yep, that's what we're doing. All right, so let's look at the next one here. Okay, let's go down to the next one. Now, at the beginning of the year, like I said, we did a little bit of review of things. Now, I don't remember when we worked with you if we did this next piece to it.
I think we have.
You think? No, okay, I don't think we
I know
did.
we're slow, but I don't think we've done it often.
So let's do this next part when we say justify. All right, as we're going to get into things, we're going to justify your reasoning. On justifying your reasoning, I want to see words. Okay. Now those words, where am I getting them from? We'll talk about that here in just a moment. Don't overthink this though. When we say justify, I have a statement column, and we have what we call as a reason column. Your statement column is what you guys have been doing forever. That's the work that we've been showing right here. So let's start right there. What we're going to do then is bring this right down here, the equation that we start off with. Slide it on down. That's my step one. Slide the equation on down. Don't overthink it. Let's solve this out for y. So what would you need to do in order to get y by itself? What's your inverse that you have to do to get y by itself? Yeah, you gotta get rid of that 2 by subtracting 2. So right below that now, I show my little minus 2 on both sides. Great. And what we now create is line 2. All right, when you subtract 2, what are you left with on the left-hand side? Just the variable, right? And on the right-hand side, watch that arithmetic. Yep. Use those calculators. The easy mistake is to say 6, maybe, but it is negative 10. That's what you guys have been doing for years. That's what we say is the statement side. But the new part that I don't know if you've done is the reason part of it. Hopefully you have. But we haven't, I don't think, talked about it. All right, let's talk about the reason side. Okay, I have to have this all matching up. I had 2 lines on the statement side. I better have 2 same lines on the other side. Better be matching up completely. All right, so the first reason, let's introduce that to you guys. I have to give you an equation to solve, right? So the reason is in math, we say it's given. In math, we are given certain things to use to help us figure out problems. Geometry, same thing happens. So in math, we have a word that says it's given to you. That's not going to change for you right now. We're going to keep using given as our first reason. Now after that, it just depends what's going on. Look at your work. What inverse operation did you say to use? You said minus 2, right? Subtract 2. So that reason, we're going to write that out. Do not say, though, minus 2. You don't want to be specific. We want to go general. So when you say minus 2, what you're using is what we call the subtraction property of equality. That's what I want as a reason. If you subtract, tell me we use the subtraction property. If we added, tell us we use the addition property. Okay, that's it. Keep it very simple. So when you're done with your justification, I should have step 1, step 2, we get the variable by itself, call it a day. Chloe?
So the statement is just showing all the work, and then the reason is just explaining it.
That is exactly correct. So let's do that now on the next one. On the next one there, let's drag that equation on down, and that first line is going to be negative 3x equals 12. If it's helpful for you to put that line down the middle, I will keep doing that by default. Because what I should always see on your work then is, what do you do to one side, you better do to the other. All right, let's solve this out. How are we going to solve for x here? What do we need to do to get x by itself, Tristan?
Plus 3.
Okay, now that's the mistake I usually hear. Unfortunately, it's not going to be a plus 3. Now let's take a look at why it's not a plus 3. Yeah, what's in between the negative 3 and the x? What operation is hiding in between there?
Multiplication.
So right there is that multiplication, all right, that dot that's there. And because that negative 3 times x is happening, we have to get rid of multiplication. So the mistake I usually hear is, yeah, that plus 3, which I totally get. And my guess is some of you said the answer was 15. But unfortunately, it's not. Divide by negative 3, you said, right? Because it's multiplication. The inverse multiplication is division. Else can you drop anything? And then, there it is. And then on the next line, what do we have? If you divide it by -3 on the left, what's -3 divided by -3 then? Cancels out, correct. You're just left with x. On the right hand side, back to your arithmetic, back to your calculator. 12 divided by -3. And better have that negative with it. Don't get lazy on us. That's the old stuff. Now I'm just introducing to you one other small step on the right hand side with the reason. And that first one should always be your easy one there. It's always going to be given. Yep. Eventually I will change that up on you when you get to geometry. For this year in algebra, it's always going to be given. Now, what do? Look at your work. How do we go from step 1 to step 2? Yeah, look at the inverse operation there. You divide it. So just like we said, what? Subtraction property of equality? We will say division property of equality. That's it. So just like we have subtraction, we have division, we have addition, and what's the other one we have? Multiplication property of equality. Those all will be used interchangeably depending on what you have to do right there. Okay? X equals -4. Sounds good to me. Let's go with the next one then. All right, let's take it down to below. Let's take a look at number 8. You need that? Sorry. There you go. What's that?
She could remember my name.
Oh,
So she
okay.
was asking if I remembered.
Gotcha, no problem. All right, so let's take a look at number 8. So number 8, this is what you also see on some of the tests when you get there. I'm going to give you some of the questions that are just like this, full blown. You got to solve it all out. But I'm also going to give you some questions where I complete it partially for you, and you need to finish it off. So let's now take a look at question 8 here. On question 8, I got a little bit more going on. As we can see, we've got 2 lines instead of, we got 3 lines instead of 2. So let's talk about filling this out. Step 1, step 2, step 3. What do we get for next year? All right, let's take a look at this. Step 1, we start off with that equation. I get a blank here. The blank equals 12. So the right-hand side stayed the same, right? Stayed 12. What did the left-hand side become? What did you do there, Emily? So let's go back to what we did on the other side. On the left-hand side, we have x's we need to bring together. If you see those x's to bring together, bring them together. So this is where your calculator comes back into play. 2 minus 6 is a -4x, okay? Mistake is to say 8x, something like that. 2 minus 6 is -4, use those calculators. All right, now we're here. Now keep in mind, before you do the knee-jerk reaction, what we just did up there on number 7. It's very similar to here. How are we going to get x by itself? What do we need to do now? Divide by. The mistake would be to say add. But we want to divide by -4. Go to your calculator or just use your arithmetic in your head. The -4s cancel out. You're left with x. And what is 12 divided by -4? -3. If you do that for us, great. This is a 2-stepper. It took us 2 steps to get there. Now let's reason it. 3 on the left. I better have 3 on the right. What's that first one always going to be? I ain't going to change up on you. All right. Now let's take a look here. How do we go? Look at your work. How do we go from step 1 to 2? We said 2x minus 6x, and then we got a -4x. Emily, what did you say we had to do? And what she just said there of combine like terms is exactly what we want to state. Okay? Combine like terms. That is more than fine for a math reason. Combine like terms is what we're looking for. It uses our math vocabulary. Now, you will see it one of 2 ways. Combine like terms, or we will also say just the word simplify. Do you need to put both of those down? No. You either put the word simplify or put the word combine like terms. I will take either one. I will write out either one of those. Okay. But don't be specific. Don't tell me I combined 2x with negative 6x. Keep it general. And then last thing is, look at step 2 to 3. What inverse operation did you have to do to go from 2 to 3? So then state it. We did the division property of, that's all. When we get ready and go full blown into justifying these, all right, that's what's going to look like. Those reasons are what you've seen today. Those are the only reasons that you use. You just swap them out depending on what operations you're doing. All right, give me a second. Let's look at number 9. How many lines I got number 9? 4 lines, right? So I better have 4 reasons to match it here in just a moment. Okay, let's finish this dude off. How do I go from line 1 to line 2? What are we going to do here? If I see parentheses, that's the very first thing I'm tackling, just like we did on the other page to start off with. This is where I show that arc. That's where I show I want to multiply 2 times x and 2 times negative 3. What is 2 times x? And 2x, right? And what is 2 times negative 3? There we go. That's it. It's nothing new. We did that before. All right. Then I did a line for you. What did I do on that line? How did I go from 2x minus 6 equals 12 to 2x equals 18? What did we have to do there?
Add on 6.
Yeah, you're the teacher here. Figure it out. I have to grade your stuff. Figure it out. Get in my head. How did I go from there? I had to do it. Add 6. So whenever I see addition, subtraction up there, I want to undo that. Now, how do we go from step 3 to 4? 2x equals 18. Just like we've been working on. That 2 is attached by multiplication, and the inverse of multiplication is division. Whoops. So then I go ahead and divide it. 18 divided by 2 is 9. So, 4 steps there. I better have 4 reasons here. Now I'm going to give you an easy point every single time there. What's that first one always going to be? If you get that given wrong, I will slap somebody. I don't know who yet. Victor's in the lead. Okay, so after that, what do we do? How did you go from 1 to 2? That's exactly what we want to say. We use the distributive property. So we're going to state that we use the distributive property. Okay? And right there, real quick, we've used up all the reasons now. We've said addition, multiplication, subtraction, division, property of equality. We use the word given. We use the word combine like terms or simplify. And now we just use the last one, which you say is distributive property. That is it. There will be nothing else that ever appears on the right-hand side. There's no more catches down the road. There's no more, well, what about this? No. All those things that we've just talked about will only go right here. Geometry, we'll change it up. But for Algebra 1 this year, that's all I better see on the right-hand side with reasons. Let's finish this off. How did we go from step 2 to 3? You said I went and added 6. So what are we going to state? And I'm getting tired of writing that, so I don't mind a little shorthand right there, but you better know what your own shorthand is. On the quiz or test, whatever, I expect it all out there. But on your notes, that's one thing. And what's our last step that we did? Look at it. What did we do to go from 3 to 4? We divided by 2, right? So then tell me that. Tell me we use the division property of equality. When I grade this up later, when we do our first tests or quizzes on that, each row is a point. So this is right here a 4-pointer. 1 point here, so it's a half here, and it's a half here. So 1 point, 2 points, 3 points, 4 points. As you can tell, one question adds up very quickly off of that, okay? All right, is that the last one there? Yep, it was, okay? So, from here, we're gonna use this starting in our notes, I think, tomorrow, with solving equations, but also, most importantly, being able to rearrange and combine, oops, did that again. Combine, like terms, okay? So we wanna make sure you guys get good at that. Ms. Keno's got the assignment, I believe. Okay, so let's get going on that assignment, and there's a few of you. I'm gonna yell out your names here in just a second. We got your Chromebooks, you owe me a test, okay? So those of you from yesterday, Olivia looks like she's having fun back there with that. Olivia owes me a test. Emily owes me a test. You don't owe me a test. Brandon owes me a test. And anybody else owe me a test? You don't owe me a test.
Olivia had to leave, and Emily left, and Brandon wasn't here.
Brandon knows the test, you have the class calendar. Going on that test, good, Brandon? Alright. You see your graph calculator, there's this is able to neutral. This is the assignment, this is your test now.
Yes, so just like your notes.
Practice what we just did. So.
There's someone in there. There's someone in there, someone else before you.
Use those notes as a guide. Okay?
There's just two. Okay. I should have got this and then I'll sort it.
Alright, let's work, boys and girls.